Everyone in Philadelphia is feeling fairly optimistic about our gritty identity heading into the fall, but we all know building true depth is a constant grind. A frustrating medical situation just pushed a veteran offensive piece to the injured reserve list today. To fix the sudden gap, our front office immediately signed a big rookie back who bullied defenses in the SEC last year. Please leave a like, drop a comment with your honest opinion, and subscribe to join us. Quinden Jackson has signed with the Philadelphia Eagles to bolster our backfield after the team officially placed Elijah Mitchell on injured reserve. This move brings a fresh prospect into the fold who spent last season on the practice squad for Jacksonville before hitting the open market. We are talking about a player who stands 6'2" and brings significant production from his time at Arkansas, where he rumbled for 790 yards and 15 touchdowns during the 2024 campaign alone. When you look at his combined output from Utah in 2023 and Arkansas, his 1,587 total rushing yards show a guy who knows how to find daylight. And here's why that's a big deal. We need that kind of reliability right now. Beyond that single addition, the front office also secured defensive tackle David Blay Jr. and outside linebacker Tarron Jackson following a series of Sunday workouts. These moves required tough decisions, ultimately resulting in the team waiving guard Jaeden and tight end Dae'Quan Wright to clear roster space. I have to wonder if these roster adjustments are enough to solve our current depth concerns. As fans, it feels like we are constantly tracking these fringe moves to see who might actually contribute on Sundays under Nick Sirianni. Is adding raw talent from the workouts really going to shift the needle when the season is on the line? David Blay Jr. arrives with a unique path from Westchester and Louisiana Tech, while Tarron Jackson brings his experience back to the mix. With Elijah Mitchell sidelined, the pressure falls on the remaining group to step up immediately. Everyone is asking the same question tonight. Will this collection of new faces provide the necessary spark to stabilize the rotation, or are we just rearranging the deck chairs while waiting for our primary stars to get fully healthy? Why go through the effort of Sunday workouts just to move pieces around the board this late in the year? It comes down to a cold, calculated necessity driven by the team's ongoing search for depth. Management clearly identified gaps after watching the film, prompting them to bring in Quinden Jackson, David Blay Jr., and Tarron Jackson immediately following those evaluations. Moving Elijah Mitchell to injured reserve is a tough break for the room, but it opens a door for a guy like Quinden Jackson who is coming off a productive stint at Arkansas. Seeing a player who reached 790 yards and 15 scores in his final collegiate year suddenly available provides a glimmer of hope that he can contribute right away. And this is the part that gets me. We are trading away guys like Jaeden and Dae'Quan Wright to squeeze these new names onto the roster, which suggests the front office saw something during those weekend drills they simply could not ignore. Is it standard procedure to overhaul the bottom of the roster when the pressure mounts? Perhaps, but it feels like the staff is hunting for any spark to keep the ship steady. David Blay Jr. brings a fascinating background from his time at Westchester and Louisiana Tech, while Tarron Jackson returns to the rotation, hoping to prove he belongs in the mix. Whether these roster changes ultimately help the team win games remains the big mystery for us followers. Will this group of fresh faces actually make a difference once the lights turn on? Or are we simply watching the staff cycle through options because they are out of alternatives? Decisions made in the shadows of the front office often define the ceiling of a season, and these specific moves tell a story of a team still desperately searching for its identity. That covers the official transaction report. But moving past the raw data, we need to address what this means for the immediate future of our roster. Placing Elijah Mitchell on injured reserve forces the coaching staff to scramble for production, making the arrival of Quinden Jackson far more than just a routine depth signing. Standing 6'2", he provides a different physical profile for our backfield rotation, and frankly, that level of collegiate output is hard to ignore. And I'll be straight with you, banking on a player who just hit the open market to fill such a void is a gamble that carries significant weight for our upcoming schedule. Integrating David Blay Jr. and Tarron Jackson creates a ripple effect throughout our defensive front, leaving us to wonder how many snaps these guys can realistically absorb when the heat of a game turns up. Losing Jaeden and Dae'Quan Wright to balance the books shows the front office is prioritizing specific positions over overall versatility, But does this really shift our standing against the rest of the division? Every roster move at this stage functions as a pressure test for our playoff aspirations, especially when we are counting on midweek workout attendees to stabilize a rotation that is currently in flux. If this group cannot provide the necessary stopgap measures, the burden on our veteran leaders will only increase as the season marches forward. We are effectively betting that these additions possess the hidden upside to sustain us during this injury-riddled stretch. Whether these players prove their worth under the lights or become footnotes in an unpredictable year is the question weighing on every fan tonight. Can this collection of newcomers truly keep us competitive, or are we witnessing a team simply patching holes in a sinking ship while hoping for a miracle? Adding fresh blood to the roster following Sunday workouts remains a standard path to finding hidden value. Yet banking on these specific acquisitions brings plenty of questions. For Quinden Jackson, his transition from Arkansas to the practice squad and now to our backfield is a move aimed at immediate depth. He clearly has the physical frame at 6'2" to handle tough carries, and the 1,587 combined yards over his final 2 college seasons prove he can produce when given the chance. And I cannot stress this enough. The decision to waive Jaeden and Dae'Quan Wright signifies that Nick Sirianni and his staff are prioritizing current availability over long-term project development. Does this trade-off actually improve our win probability, or are we just filling a spot with someone who lacks chemistry with the offensive line? While supporters of these signings point to the need for a secondary rotation, critics might argue that moving Elijah Mitchell to injured reserve creates a hole that these newcomers simply cannot fill. Heavy.com reports suggest that the organization is hunting for reliability after these recent assessments, but one has to wonder if the gamble on David Blay Jr. and Tarron Jackson will yield any tangible results on the defensive front. Here's where I land on this. While I appreciate the effort to bring in talent that showed out during drills, it is hard to get excited about players who were let go by other organizations earlier this offseason. We are basically hoping for a diamond in the rough to emerge during a period where we desperately need consistency. If these additions fail to perform, the pressure shifts right back to our veteran core to carry the load, and that is a precarious position for any team entering the final stretch of the year. When you combine these roster updates with the long-term vision of this team, the path forward becomes clearer. We are witnessing a front office that favors immediate, low-risk depth over lingering uncertainty. This is where it gets real, as these signings show a clear dedication to maintaining a competitive floor under Nick Sirianni while balancing the realities of a long physical season. Bringing in Quinden Jackson and David Blay Jr., along with Tarron Jackson, suggests that leadership prioritizes hard-nosed collegiate production when roster gaps appear. Honestly, watching a guy with 1,587 combined yards from his recent college years join our ranks feels like a sensible hedge against the injury struggles currently hitting our backfield. Should we feel optimistic? I believe we should, simply because these moves reflect a refusal to let the roster stagnate while waiting for